This is Bob with HetteshWorld. I'm just going to take you through some of the safety checks that I do before we get this beast of a camper out on the road.
We're Bob and Barb. We've lived by the rules all of our lives, but in 2020 we threw that rule book out the window. We sold our home and moved full-time into an RV with our cat Amelia, and from now on we will be living life our way. Don't you want to come travel in our world?
First, I'm going to start with checking lug nuts for tightness, but it's 100 foot-pounds, so you will need a torque wrench to do this properly. Alright, this is the little socket set I use. It's called NEIKO, N-I-E-K-O. This is nice because it comes with all these different sizes, and it has an extension here that pops on the end of the socket, and it fits I'd say it fits probably all the campers and trucks. And on this torque wrench here, this is a Amazon Tech-On, and it's just dial style. So I set it for about 100, 105, and you want to put it on each lug. Right now I got the safety brake pulled. That's what you're hearing, that noise. You just want to go around and make sure all of them are clicking on this particular type. Some of them got sirens and everything else that go off. Some are just old bend wrenches, but you want to make sure you're getting that clicking sound. That knows we're properly set, foot-pounds of torque. The next thing I do, I check my tires for tire pressure on the truck, and even though we've got TPMS, but I set these cold 125 according to your load. That's how you want to set them, according to how much weight you got on the camper after you get it weighed. The other thing I do check the landing gear. These bolts here, I found several of them not loose, but I found them definitely not within spec tightness. So you definitely want to check those two on occasion when you travel. Make sure you check your spare tire also. On this Riverstone, it has 19 millimeter or 3/4 inch bolt here, holds it in place, and I'll show you how it slides in. It's kind of a neat mechanism for keeping you off of the road. Right now I got the slide out, so it's a little harder. Alright, I'll see if I can film this while I'm doing it, but I just wanted to show you guys how this thing on this Riverstone, how it comes out. I know some trailers, they just drop down with a chain, but they got a pretty neat mechanism on here. It's got like a little roller, so it just slides on across. Slides on this rail right here where my hand's going, and then it comes over here to a pin, and it's got a pin in it. That goes up through. That goes up through there, and that keeps it from coming off. It's got a little cleavage pin here. Keeps it from coming off, but pretty clever, and makes it simple to pull a spare tire out. But definitely remember the spare tire when you're checking your air pressures. The other place you want to check is these pins here and these bolts. These are marked at 120 psi. I'll also check this here. Got them on both sides. That's on this trail air. I run my airbag usually around 80 pounds, the airbag here. And that usually you got a little arrow here on your shock. It'll, when it compresses that, the weight of the trailer gets pushed down on that. But this is just some other places you want to check for torque settings. On my safety leash, I did away with the factory one. It was just a cable, and it just gets in the way. I'll show you this. This is another Amazon. It comes with this little dog lock latch, whatever you call it, spring loaded safety. I hook this onto my bed rail on the truck. I hook it right here on this one I got for my tonneau cover, but it makes it nice. And then you get, when you buy it, you get an extra pin. So I kept my extra pin because they say on occasion, I've heard of some people saying the kids will come by and they'll pull that out and take it with them or throw it in the woods. Your brakes will be locked on, because that's what the job of that is to do, is to lock onto the brakes in case of a separation between your kingpin and your hitch. it can ruin a vacation if you go try to find one of those to get you down the road. So you definitely want to have a spare. I got the spare original one, and I use that one as the one I use when I travel down the road. On this B&W hitch, where this puck system ties into your truck, on occasion you have to check these, and these have a pin that goes between them. You can actually put a padlock on there if you feel more secure, but that one's kind of flopping around, so you have to tighten that nut up a little bit. You want that to be not super tight, but you want it to be snug. So just tighten up those castle nuts, and then make sure you put your cotter pin back in there. Can't back out of there. And then make sure you put your crossover pin back in. Some people will put padlocks on these if they're you know, feeling a little place they're at's not very safe. You've got pins that hold the top and the bottom together, and I'll pull this up and we'll see that there is a spot where you can put some white lithium grease. So once you separate the two, you can just put your little white lithium right there and there, and just work it over a little bit. And just set your hitch back up on there. The other thing on this B&W companion hitch is a lot of people overlook, but it does have some grease fittings. It has that one up in there. You can see it. So make sure you grease that point. Yeah, that's some of the things I check, my pre-checklist when it comes to the mechanical parts of the hitch and the tires and your suspension. So those are the things you want to check on occasion. I'm not sure how often you want to check them. Probably every couple trips I'll go through and check all that stuff. The hitch I'll check every time. I'll make sure the pins are in place and make sure where it's held into the bed. On the puck system, I make sure it's all locked and they're tight. I am going to climb up the 3 axles on this trailer and go through and hit some of the grease fittings they have on this torsion bar suspension we got underneath this. So I'll show you that when I get underneath the camper some. All right, now that we're underneath the camper, I'm just showing you these 3 axles. And this is the torsion bar suspension, so you don't have leaf springs. But I'm going to swing you over here. You do have some grease fittings on each one of these axles where these rubbers go through. So there's one right there. So I'm going to go through on all 3 of these, clean them up, grease them. And then I kind of just do a, you know, grab suspension parts, move them around, squeeze them. They shouldn't be moving around on you. Like these shocks, you know, if anything's loose, you're going to know it right away. All these bolts, these should all be torqued down. So you want to make sure all this stuff nothing's backed out over time, especially, you know, you run down the road vibrating all over the place. So these you want to check on occasion. I'm not saying you have to check them every trip. These fittings, you know, you probably just want to grease them about every 3-4 months. You just want to shoot a little grease. You don't want to over grease them, but you want to make sure there's enough grease inside of here to keep this from locking up metal on metal. Hey guys, I'm underneath the camper. Even if you're not the most mechanical person in the world, you still want to get underneath your camper and feel familiar with the underbody of the camper. It's a good idea to know what's going on, just in case someone would ask a question or something, or you need to ask a question to someone. So yeah, look around underneath your camper, get familiar with underneath. One thing I wanted to show you, these are screens I put on underneath the vents on the rear garages, keep the little varmints out. These are wide open 4-inch ducts they use to keep ventilation going. They got one behind the driver's side rear tire, and then there's one back in that corner back there. You want to make sure you fill this up with some fine mesh. There's also one up in the battery compartment that I filled with some mesh just to keep mice and little critters and squirrels and all that from climbing up in there. Some of the other things you want to do on the outside, you want to buy some 3M makes all the different sealant, seals, cleaners, and lubrication for these slide seals. You want to keep them pliable, so When you need them in a rainstorm, they're all working. You can clean them and put lubrication on them. Then also on your landing gear and your leveling, you want to clean those pistons up on occasion and wipe up around the seal, and then spray you some lubrication on there. Maybe not a silicone grease, maybe more of a dry grease so you don't attract dirt, but that'll keep when that piston goes up and down, because that's what you're looking at, a hydraulic piston right there. So you want that to, when that's retracted, you want that not to drag any dirt against that seal and compromise it. If you like these videos, please subscribe to our channel. We love the comments. We also love to see you hit the notification bell so you can be notified every time we put a video up. This is Bob with HetteshWorld. Come travel in our world.